Here at the G2E show in Las Vegas, Rahul joining us right now from Unikrn. An exciting time for almost everyone here because the world has rapidly changed over the last few months for a lot of people that are in this space, but what you're doing is unique.
Yeah, you're referring specifically to the sports betting side of things, which is obviously very popular in the U.S. now. You know, it's creating a lot of buzz. You got a lot of Europeans coming over and trying to set up shop. But what we are doing at Unikrn is we are the biggest bookmaker for eSports in the world. So we do eSports. We create odds on all of the major eSport tournaments around the world, and we do both skill betting and spectator betting on eSports.
So it's fascinating what you do because, you know, traditionally with regular sports, there's a system in place, there's a lot of people that provide that sort of data. You guys are forging a new path though. What are some of the challenges that you've encountered along the way as you're trying to, like you said, create a lot of data, a lot of lines, everything else for a very rapidly changing industry in and of itself in esports?
Yeah, I mean, look, the biggest challenge is just really understanding the market. When we started Unikrn in 2014, our first mission was basically to become part of the community. So we wanted Unikrn to become part of the fabric of the esports community. So we just put the gambling part aside and we really focus on building content, getting involved with teams, team ownership, setting up tournaments. We built an online tournament platform and an on-premise tournament platform. And at the same time, while we were doing all of that and becoming part of the community, we were building just a killer sportsbook and betting experience. We're showing it here at the JCM booth, but we're doing both spectator and skill betting products. And on the 21st of this month, we have just a mega launch coming, a whole bunch of new products, and we're going to be in a lot of new markets. It's going to be very cool.
Well, when you talk about a mega launch and being able to do things on a big scale, you have some really incredible investors that are behind your company as well that even the average Joe at home would know of. Yeah. Who are some of the people that have bought into what you are doing?
Yeah, so I mean, you've probably heard of Ashton Kutcher and Mark Cuban, Elizabeth Murdoch, Sherry Redstone. There's a number of really great investors. I think what's interesting about our investors, you know, particularly people like Mark Cuban, Mark is a very active investor. So when he sees something out in the market, he immediately gets a hold of us and tells us. He's available all hours of the night, essentially. But he's super active and super involved in what we do. Ashton Kutcher, a lot of people don't know this, but he's got more experience with bookmaking than pretty much anybody on our cap table other than the founders. So he's very, very good at this stuff and gets it. And I guess any one of our investors are people who are passionate about what we do, which is why we chose them as investors. So yeah.
As far as the interest from the public, I mean, we're seeing a whole new generation come up, and esports generally is at the top of the list of a lot of kids that you talk to today. But how do you blend those two together so that way people that traditionally haven't, who haven't been actively involved in esports get interested in the business that you're doing?
Really awesome question. So there's two sides to that. The first thing is, as I mentioned, we've been building community for the last number of years, and we've been effectively taking bets in markets where we're allowed to take bets. But at the same time, we have a free token that people can earn on the platform and play bet in different markets where we're not regulated. It's not a transferable token, there's no monetary value to it. But what we found was there's a lot of traditional, sports bettors who watch rugby or something that don't have a clue what's going on the screen when it comes to esports. So we created a bingo game that grabs live data and populates it on this app on your phone. And basically things like, if you're watching League of Legends, for example, first dragon, first baron, first turret, all of that stuff will show up on the bingo card, and you buy the card, you play bingo. On our site we'll have 24-hour bingo essentially running on multiple esports tournaments, and it's a really great way for people who don't understand esports to kind of learn about it through that. Now on the other side of that is you got people who love esports who don't typically love traditional sports. So we wanted to do a test, and we pick sports that we think are relevant to this audience. So a couple of weeks ago we picked the UFC and said let's throw the UFC up on our site. Let's do bets on the McGregor fight that just happened this weekend and see what happens. So we threw the odds up and we put a bunch of in play markets, and man, we were surprised. We were a little worried that customers were going to say, oh, you're selling out, what are you doing? But we had 5 times more action on the UFC than we had in our last major esports tournament, which is pretty awesome. So there's a like a farce out there that people believe that millennials don't want to bet. And this is not true. They just don't know how to speak with them, and we do. So yeah.
Is it going to be easier, an easier entry point using somebody like a Conor McGregor who's got this cult of personality? A lot of people know who he is, have an opinion of him one way or another, as opposed to going, well, let's throw a football game up there where you have to know a lot more.
So potentially, we don't know yet because we haven't thrown a football game up yet, but we do run Madden tournaments at the MGM Grand every now and then. And Madden is pretty popular. It's not League of Legends popular, but it's pretty popular. There are other games out there that we will bring on, but I think when we think about Unikrn, we really want it to be a unique, fun experience. So it might be more along the lines of what you're talking about, where you have unique personalities, potentially unique betting markets and things like that make it fun, and we can gamify it and that sort of thing. Yeah.
One of the most common sentiments that I've heard just being on the floor talking with a number of people is that in 2 years from now, we have no idea what this is going to look like. Is that a sentiment that you're operating under? We're going, this world's going to evolve around us whether we want it to or not. We have to adapt with it?
Yeah, we have a 6-month roadmap. We don't go beyond that because we know that the industry constantly changes. I mean, we look at new trending games and we make new products around it. For example, I just had a guy come to me and say, how do you convince the traditional betting operators who are like the older companies that eSports has a future or what you're doing is interesting to them? And I say, well, do their kids play Fortnite? And he says, yeah, probably. And I say, well, we just created an application where people can come to our platform and we put odds on their chances of certain things happening in a Fortnite game, and they can bet on those odds, and it's 100% skill. And Unikrn has been building that stuff for 4 years. Now we can do it on pretty much any game. We're doing it on all of the major battle arena games. We're doing it on many MOBA games. And we got this mega launch on the 21st. I can't get into too much detail into how it works, but when we launch it, it's going to be interesting. It'll be all over.
Can't wait to see what you guys are doing, man. Thanks so much for sharing with us today.
I appreciate it. Thanks a lot.